So, the hammer was dropped at DC Comics, and it was a lot heavier than we thought it was going to be. Hey everybody, it's your boy Nerdicane. I am broadcasting from the Nerdic Kitchen. I know that has not a whole lot of bearing. You guys don't really know what that is. But DNC, Diversity in Comics, did a video the other day, which he was like, the manner of a professional. He goes, yep, I was wrong. He said that, DC Comics was too small to fail. Well, apparently the DC Comics was like 1/3 too big, and that's sort of what happened. Is 1/3 of the staff at DC Comics, the editorial staff, has been cut. Now, as they say in the military, shit rolls downhill. If that's getting cut, everything down below it is gonna get cut. Jim Lee is still safe. Jim Lee is still there. Jim Lee's sort of not doing what he's supposed to do. I just saw one of the 10-second reviews from RJ over at the Fourth Age, and he said, he was talking about this Justice League Odyssey comic where all of it was done with models. It was an artist using models on everything, and that's sort of what epitomizes DC right now. Is they're not exactly bad, they're not exactly good, they're not offensively bad like Marvel right now, but they're forgettably good, if that's a thing. That's sort of like their slogan right now. But Jim Lee's not doing what he's supposed to be doing. If you're going to be an artist for DC, you should have to go through Jim Lee. Jim Lee should be the editor of art, or the art editor. Everybody who draws a DC Comics or a DC comic should have to go through Jim Lee. That's what Jim Lee's known for. That's where he made his bones. He's been on top of his game since the late 80s. You would see an instant rise in the quality of DC Comics if that were the case. Get Jim Lee. Whenever I had kitchens, whenever I had my businesses, I would, kind of look at my staff and say, yes, I'm going to work on people's skills that they're sort of weak at, but when it's go time, when it's real, when we're making the money, I'm going to put the best people in the best place, because that's the way I'm going to make the best money. And that's really what DC Comics should be doing, is putting the best people in the best place to make the best amount of money. But a lot of the editors have been gone. It's going to trickle down. It's going to be, it's going to be ugly. But Andy Curry was let go. And now Andy Curry, you may, once again, it's a name you sort of remember, but you don't remember. He is the guy who curated Black Label, which Black Label basically just became the label for Joker and Harley Quinn books. I gotta go check on Nerdicane at Junior. She's crying. I'll be right back. But more egregiously, he is the guy who turned Vertigo into just the offensively bad shit show that it was. A lot of people have predicted this. Ethan Van Sciver definitely predicted this coming, and it sort of feels like the last restaurant that I ran, the last restaurant that I was involved in, was this salad place. And yes, it was a horrible idea. Salad places make no money. But I got pulled in. A buddy of mine got me to go in there, and it was a mess. I didn't realize before I went in there, it was already a dead restaurant. They were so in debt that there was no way you could get out of it with a salad place. Salad just doesn't have enough of a profit margin. I think I did the math. I think it would have taken like 15 years of a normal profit margin for them to come out of debt. But the last one I went to, as staff was awful. The back of the house staff was good. Front of the house staff was just these nasty hoochies, and they just like bad attitude. You walk in there and they just like, because the first time I went in there as a customer to see what the feel was like, and it's just like they don't smile. They don't greet you. They look like they're doing you a favor that they don't want to do you, by making you a salad. And I tried to convey to these women, and I went out of my way to be kind to them, but I kept telling them, look, we got to change the image of this place. We got to be more inviting. We got to be more welcoming, because the way it's going right now, it's just not going to work. We're going to go out of business. They thought I was just being hyperbolous, when actually I was actually being very accurate. So everything went down, it went down the way it did. They didn't want to change. They didn't want to change the way, and I couldn't get rid of them. I was in a weird situation where I couldn't get rid of them. And when I left, the place went out of business because the owner asked me, he said, "Hey, what do I do? He goes, your honest opinion, you've been here for a couple months. What do I do?" I said, "Close it. Do you enjoy this place? No, you spend most of your time in China." He was a big business guy with Oshkosh. This was like a side biz. He spent most of his time in China. All the thing does is make him miserable, and everything having to do with it. Every time he got a phone call having to do with that restaurant, he was miserable or it cost him money. So I said, just close it and be done with it because it's not doing anything for you. And he did. And those women were out of a job because of that. I tried to tell them, change your ways, start acting right. And that's sort of what DC Comics and the comic book industry in general is dealing with. Comicsgate as a movement, as a customer service based movement, has been saying, hey, you're going to go out of business. This is going to have bad repercussions. You guys need to start acting right. And instead of acting right or even taking a little bit of consideration into what they're doing, what their actions were, they just called everybody Nazis. And that's what we're seeing in the comic book industry now is the bill is coming due. The checks that they're getting the checks they're getting are bouncing. The checks they're writing are bouncing. And the comic book industry is going to be very different a year from now. It's going to be a lot smaller. And DC is the first major one to change. Oh my God. When this finally hits Marvel with Bob Chapek, who is known as a budget cutter, as an Axeman, this is going to be much bigger when it hits Marvel. I'm sure Marvel's New York office is gonna close. It's gonna be really ugly, and it's gonna be a really good thing, especially for DC. DC is probably gonna go to major characters having their own books with top flight writers and top flight artists. I hope, unless they go the super cheap route where they get the cheapest artists that they can. They get the cheapest writers that they can. And every once in a while, they get like a special issue or a special storyline written by some quote-unquote big writer like Bendis or Gail Simone. And what I mean by special is like it's special because they put it on the shelf and it just sits there. That's what makes that comic book special. It's almost like those comics that they have usually in the back behind the register at your comic book store, the special ones. That's what it'll be. It'll be printed. It'll be a new printed special issue that nobody buys because they don't want it. But yeah, that's what's going to happen. And other cuts have been marketing, which I'm sure probably has something to do with their Walmart fiasco, where they said, "Oh, we have these anthology books in Walmart," and all of the fans were like, "Where? We can't find them. We would like to buy them. We can't find them." So much to the point where Jim Lee, when he was, working in the position of a publisher, had to do a social media video where he went to a Walmart, had to kneel down to the lowest level of the shelf where they keep the Pokemon cards and all the dumb little collectibles and toys, and on the bottom shelf he said, "Here they are," and they weren't even stacked facing out. They were just stacked on the side and put it in there to where you couldn't even see the cover. He had to pull them out and say, "This is where they are," with all this other junk that everybody passes by. That was a marketing disaster. So if anybody in marketing is wondering why a third of their staff is gone, that's probably why. That horrible deal is probably why. But tell me what you think in the comments. I really hope we see a return to quality. I'd like to see 20 to 30 books coming out from, even 30 would be probably too much from DC Comics. Maybe 20 books, but 20 really good books. 20 books that you want to buy, a lot of them, and then maybe a few weeks later when they reach the discount bin, you buy the rest. That's what I would like to see, is just a level of quality that makes people want to buy things, not a level of quality where you look at it and you say, boy, they really phoned this one in. This story has no bearing. The artist used 3D models, and it's just, I don't want to see that anymore. And that's the death of the comic book industry, as we've seen already. But tell me what you think in this one. Go check out the article and just wait, man. Just make your predictions now for Marvel, because the cuts are coming to Marvel, and when they come to Marvel, woo, they're gonna be ugly. But thanks for your time. Thanks for listening. You guys go have a good day. Bye.